live. We're going live.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Patty Duke?
I don't even know how to answer that question.
I guess what I would want to know is it a double funeral for her and her identical cousin?
Oh, Patty Duke died?
Jesus. Yeah, Patty Duke died at the age of...
Come on, that was a good TV show. We all love the Patty Duke show.
It was a little old for me, but yeah.
I remember before my time.
But I watched it in reruns, when my mom would watch it.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. The reruns thing is. You know what all the kids are into right now?
What's that?
Crazy Ways is Friends. Like Friends, and I know the show Friends, which was around, when we were in the 90s.
I used to love that show.
Yeah, no, so did I. But right now, if it was on the air right now, based on how much it's being viewed on Netflix and all these other places it would be the #1 show by far of any show on the air.
Well, it's funny because.
Go ahead, Mike.
It's funny because the recent upswing regarding House of Cards has been a big boom to the West Wing because the West Wing is on Netflix and people are watching all the entire 7 seasons of the West Wing and becoming really involved in it to the point that like some of their cast members are now doing a weekly podcast. They're doing like episode. Josh Molina, who was on the show for like the last 5 years, he's doing a podcast every week going over episode after episode. So it's got
that's like the new thing to do is podcasts for every single episode. Like it's happening like the show, the musical that I like that still everybody else in the world seems like except for you guys is Hamilton.
I want to see that really bad.
I have no opinion on it.
Have you listened to it yet?
No.
Have you heard it, Dan, at all?
I've heard a little bit of it. I've heard some of the.
You showed us, and I thought it was
some of it.
I shot Aaron Burr. Yeah, whatever.
It's off the charts actually.
No, I thought it was cool, but I
didn't know you history goon. He didn't shoot Aaron Burr. Aaron Burr shot him. You're a history.
Yeah, we think politics is screwed up now. We think politics is screwed up now, but you actually had the vice president and the secretary of treasury in a duel. That's pretty hilarious.
And where would that happen? But in New Jersey.
That's right. That sounds about right.
Everything's legal in Jersey. That's a line from the Hamilton play.
His second was Tony Soprano. There you go.
But here's the funny thing. I want to tell you guys something about like the shows that are coming back, but in reverse. I saw that we all have that function on Facebook where it shows you stuff from a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago.
Right.
And so like a year ago, I saw that they were remaking Coach. They were going to put that back on TV, right? And I gave a snarky comment saying that, well, they might as well call it Old Coach, right? That was my answer to that.
Right.
And so I decided to follow it up, right? Because I was like, hey, I wonder if it ever went on TV. And I saw that last September they decided they're not doing it.
Well, they should bring it back, and there's all kind of sanctions and NCAA violations. Let's make it realistic.
Well, they did.
Funny. It's just that it made me laugh.
They did Fuller House, which was
It's on now. It's actually I've watched a couple times.
It was horrific. It's awful.
I watched 5 minutes. It's awful.
I could barely get through one episode, and I was like, no, I can't do this to myself.
It is the perfect example of the Netflix thing, though, because Full House became huge again because of Netflix, and my daughter has watched the entire Full House run, in the last year or two.
Well, CBS is doing a TV adaptation of the movie Rush Hour. With a younger version of Jackie Chan and a younger version of whoever the hell
the guy from Dharma and Greg is in that.
Yeah, I'm so tired of reading it, though. I am.
And this is how desperate television is now. There is a show coming on that I think it's debuting. It's like going to be one of those spring summer fill-ins that's called To Catch or The Catch, and it's got the guy who was from 6 Feet Under. It's the old Robert Wagner show To Catch a Thief. And they just updated it.
I hate that.
There's just no ideas anymore. That's why something like The Blacklist is actually groundbreaking because it's original. It's interesting.
That's why Netflix shows and Hulu shows and Amazon shows are so popular because they have much bigger budgets. They have less constraints. They don't have to worry about.
Here's the thing not being talked about for Fuller House. Okay, Fuller House went on social media. They saw that Jodie Sweetin was hot. They said, let's build a series around her this time. And so I watched the first 5 minutes, and they barely put any clothes on her. And I was like, okay, I see where this series is going. It's just focused on her.
I personally think that Lori Loughlin is still pretty hot.
No, she is, but didn't you get the idea that the...
Yeah, I definitely do. But.
Well, did you see those guys on Colbert?
No, I've stopped watching Colbert because...
What?
He has fallen victim He has fallen victim to the format of CBS.
Wow.
That format for that late night show format sucks.
And his ratings are tanking.
And it's not his fault.
No.
They
say
How so? I mean, what do you mean the format?
Okay, so the guy who plays the harmonica, harpsichord thing is maybe the most annoying guy ever in that position.
No.
He is.
I like him.
I like him a lot. He's
Paul
hilarious.
Schaefer seemed reasonable.
Right.
I love the show too.
No, I think he's amazing.
I love him. I get what Russ is saying about the formula, but
What's the formula? I'm confused. Like a lot of CBS stars on there. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying he's locked into the same format that every other host has done, except it's his comedy. Right. Otherwise, it's the same thing. I'm watching the same show.
And I'm sorry to say, but his comedy it's one-sided, and that's the problem. You know, Letterman, Carson, those guys, they play to a broad audience. Colbert, when he was with Comedy Central, he could be that, you know, fake Bill O'Reilly conservative type of thing, right, playing the sarcastic thing. You do that on network television, you're going to piss off half the people who want to watch the show, and they're going to go and watch Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, and they're not going to watch Colbert. I'll bet you within 2 years he's back on Comedy Central.
He's going to be, because I think the problem is he needs to have the freedom where if an interview's going great, then he should be allowed to do it for 20 minutes and not have everybody locked into like 12 minutes and 30 seconds, whether it's good or not.
If he's going to fail, he should fail the way he was doing his show before, not to conform to the, as you say, the late show formula of having the band leader, having the sidekick. Yes. It doesn't work. He's a solo act. He should be a solo act.
He should be a solo act. Absolutely.
I don't know. Dan, you're the television person.
Well, I understand what they're saying, and CBS definitely has a formula for all its productions, for all its dramas, for all its comedies, for all its late nights. Everything is wrapped up in this tiny bow. And when Colbert is great, he's away from the teleprompter. He is just going on tangents, and the few times that he's allowed to do that, you've seen some unbelievable segments. Unbelievable segments. And it's almost like they don't want him to do too much politics either. You know,
and that's his bailiwick. That's his. You know, that's like asking Rush Limbaugh not to do politics.
Yeah,
like,
but
his political satire is brilliant. And
he's very good. I mean, it's hard not. Every other talk show is doing politics. This is the time of year when you do. Every 4 years we get this moment where we're in that period where everybody does politics.
But he digs deeper though than your Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel Trump jokes or something like that. He can do a lot more than that. I definitely have his hands tied. I
don't agree with anything this guy says regarding his political point of view. But John Oliver is brilliant.
John Oliver has no hands tied.
Right, and
John monologue. That's unheard of.
No, but can I tell you something? That's the difference. John Oliver's show is the best of its kind for that reason.
HBO, though, I mean.
Exactly.
I mean, we have to say that there is a difference between what you can do on certain networks because, I mean, my kids anybody can turn on Channel 3 or Channel 10 or whatever and see the Colbert Report. You know, it's not like you pay for HBO to get it. You know, and
or you steal HBO Go. And one thing too, you have to think of too. This is Oliver has one 1 hour show a week. That's it.
Right.
He has all the resources in the world to make great 60 minutes, and that's much different than having to do 45 minutes every 5 days a week.
Yeah, but Colbert was doing that on Comedy Central.
He was doing 22 minutes 4 days a week.
22 minutes 4 days a week.
That's a big difference.
All right.
He's doing an hour 5 days versus 22 4 days. Remember, Colbert was not on Mondays or Fridays. I forget what it was, but
I very rarely watched him on Comedy Central.
I don't see him as I actually see him as being pretty fair politically, and I mean, I guess because maybe
he's fair politically. I mean, I was there for the Ted Cruz where he was getting booed out of the studio and he stopped everybody from booing.
Yeah,
I think he's fair that way. I just think he's locked into something where I guarantee if you asked him on the side, he would wish he wasn't locked into that. He would be better off having like a Carol Burnett sketch show than having the show he has.
But this is the thing, like you go back to we'll move on in a second, but you go back to Letterman was his own beast, right? And he was later, so he was allowed to do things because when he started off, he was late night with David Letterman, totally different show, right? But no, let me finish this for a second. But then when Conan came on, who I thought was also brilliant, Conan took a while before he I mean, don't you think this is Colbert
Jimmy Fallon
doing
took
that?
a while too. He took a solid year before.
Yeah. Don't you think I mean, for Colbert's for his first year, I think he's killing everybody else's first year. That's my opinion. Like as far as
And Fallon's not a good interviewer. He just isn't. He is great at connecting to a younger demographic. He understands social media. He understands the 6-minute Saturday Night Live, skit, where you can put that in and it goes viral. He understands those little things. He also understands that people aren't watching a show at 11:30. They can watch it whenever they want.
Right.
So and Kimmel's also very good at that, making a 6-minute viral piece, that is really good. But when it comes down to actually interviewing, I don't think anyone's better than Colbert now.
Colbert's by far.
No, and the guy who follows Colbert on CBS, James Corden, who he does these little vignettes of like driving around in a car and doing karaoke.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious, and Colbert has no sort of hook like that. I mean, like I said, if he's going to go back and do what he did on Comedy Central, if that fails, it fails. But at least go back to what worked. But if CBS doesn't like it, then the show is not going to work. Here's
my last thing on this. Colbert is not dangerous on CBS. He was dangerous on Comedy Central.
I give you that.
Exactly.
Like Trevor Noah, I like Trevor Noah on The Daily Show, but he's not nearly as dangerous as Jon Stewart was, and probably not dangerous to advertisers either. And so that's another factor.
Remember, Jon Stewart works on the Colbert Show.
I know.
He's like, I mean, I think you got to give these guys a year to like establish themselves, give them time to play by the rules.
I agree. A good show takes a year, at least a year. Look at Seinfeld. Seinfeld was almost canceled after the first season.
Right. See where these guys go. Because at the end of the day, Colbert's the smartest of them all.
When we get our show, you got to give it 2 years. We might suck for a while.
Exactly. And Colbert's intelligence blows everyone else's out of the water.
And Leno changed after a year, and he became more successful. But if it failed, I mean, this was a failure of CBS management. If this goes down in flames, they probably should have gone out and gotten Conan O'Brien and brought him to CBS to go up head to head, because he's doing it on TBS and nobody's watching, but he still has a pretty good show. So that may be what they do in a couple years. But
also, Colbert only has a 1-year contract, I think.
That's right.
I heard it was like really he gets paid like a $2.5 million. It's ridiculously cheap for what you would think. Like it's like. So I think a lot of this is he's going to play the game a little bit for a while. But at the end of the day, I'll still take him one-on-one interviewing anybody. Like the interviews, I hate the 6-minute Saturday Night Live skits. I'm so done with that. Like that's like.
Yeah, if it's hilarious, I'll watch it on my phone. I don't need to watch it.
Yeah, I don't.
But you know what, Eck? The thing is, that's better. If you remember back in the day, you remember the Tom Snyder show at like 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. That's what Colbert could do. I don't think he fits into a 1-hour variety show. He just doesn't have.
I like the Tom Snyder format for him. I like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that could develop. I don't think because I don't think he's going to get bored pretty quickly doing this, but I also think he's got to play this game for a little bit. That's where I am at with it. But
all right, let's get talking.
I don't know. All right.
I want to yell.
And this is the Scottish guy. Who's the Scottish guy? Oh, what's his name?
Craig Ferguson.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Craig. He's awesome. He has a new show.
I watch it on the History Channel. It's quite funny.
Have you seen it? It is really funny.
Craig Ferguson, who perfected the art of sexual harassment, because that's all he did on his shows with women.
No, that's true.
It was hilarious.
But he has an accent, so that makes it okay.
Yes. Right. All right, let's get going. The 29th of March. Here we go. We got lots of fun things to talk about today.
Yes.
It's going to
get into some fights. It's going
to get heated. I just want to say right now before we start, whatever happens, I love you guys.
Yes. Whatever happens, you're welcome back tomorrow. I'll say that. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, March 29th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. And you're watching HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday around this time to kind of fill you in on what's going and coming in the hockey world. And what's going and coming today on the hockey world is Jimmy Vesey. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but last night the Vesey hit the fan, so to speak, and we are now in what is an interesting storm of sorts. And I wrote an article today, and I know it's not the popular article, but this is my opinion on this whole thing, and I've been, as you guys know, I'm pretty connected with Nashville. It's one of my teams that I really feel close to, and I have got good sources with. And as you also know, I've been talking for the last year about how I believed that this Vesey to Nashville thing was possible, and a lot of that was prefaced on the fact that Vesey was telling them that this was possible, and he was very openly saying, listen, I really like I appreciate that you guys understand that I want to get this degree at Harvard. I appreciate the fact that you have always been there for me. That I talk weekly with guys like Paul Fenton and people like that, and that this is going, and the Predators literally were blindsided by this. And I know everybody else is going to sit back and say, oh, it's logically yes, and we can logically sit back and say his dad worked for the Leafs. But what you have to realize is when you're actually working for a team. And you're sitting there, and you're actually David Poile, who is really well connected in USA Hockey. Obviously, Vessey's part of USA Hockey. Poile's a very trustworthy guy, unbelievably honorable. Like, in my opinion, one of the I've had people lie to me all the time, and that people I respect lie to me all the time in hockey. But Poile's not one of those guys. He's not going to lie to you. He's straight up. He's been around forever. His dad ran the Flyers when they were just. He's been around general managers forever. And when Poile says he is blindsided by something or surprised by something, it's legit. It's not a game. He's not playing a game. So last night to hear him come on TV and say, listen, we talked to him right before the trade deadline, and he said he was coming. He was signing here, and that we were going to. So we actually did mold some of what we did around the trade deadline based on the fact we wanted to leave a spot open for him. This is all legitimate. So either Vesey was completely lying to the Predators, and that was going on, or something happened and some tampering took place in there somewhere and changed things around, because it's one or the other. There's really no other options.
Well, Russ, if you want to go first, but
I'll go last.
You can go. I'll wait.
Oh wait,
you guys. David Poile's statements yesterday were setting up the pretext for tampering charges, because that's all it was. I mean, he had to be in a black hole or in a cocoon somewhere to not realize that Jimmy Vesey, who was a finalist for the Hobey Baker last year, who had a phenomenal season, who had another phenomenal season this year, was not going to sign with them and was going to go free agent. Why?
But none of that matters, Mike. I'm sorry to interrupt you for a second. If the person is telling you this, how can you not think this is true? I mean, what do you think? Do you think Jimmy Vesey is just lying to you the whole time? If you're being told these things, what do you do from that? Like, if I was telling you this is your job, if you're gonna get this, what you would not. Why would you sit there and expect me to sit there and say he's in a bubble by being blindsided by this? Well, yeah, from where we sit, maybe, but we don't know all the conversations, and I know a lot of the conversations that went on. And when you're being told one thing, how can you? Go ahead, Russ. You said you're in a blind spot. Sorry, Mike. That's the one thing I don't understand about it.
For one thing, he didn't break any rules.
He didn't break any rules. No.
No one says he did.
Okay. No. Guys have done this before. He's not the only one. He's not the first one.
Right. Guys will do it again, too.
Guys will do it again, too. But here's the thing. Articles were written right after he had his 58-point season 2 years ago, because everybody knew if he went back to Harvard, the chances of Nashville signing him were very slim. This is not like conjecture. This is like articles that were written from a lot of good outlets, big outlets, and it basically was saying every other GM is now on that watch because they know that VC is probably available. So the fact that all of this is coming out the way it is, it's a lot of show, Eck. It is.
No, the different with a lot of teams, I'd agree with you, Russ, okay? But with this particular team and the way David Poile works is very different. It is. I've talked to players that have been around it. Poile is not that game player like that.
Wait.
Those articles written, and I'll tell you right now, the reason that I've broken stories out of Nashville is no one knows this team. No one keeps track of really what's going on. You can sit there and write articles, and TSN will write articles about things about this team that are totally wrong, because this team is they're very secretive, they're very quiet, they only have a few friends that they talk to, and to be honest, all those articles were just conjecture, like you said. Of course,
but there were things left out of these statements. You know what was left out? Did they offer him the max contract last year and this year? I don't think so. This year, maybe. Not last year.
They did. They did.
And Poile outed himself and contradicted himself with his statement yesterday, because what he said was, on Wednesday, they tried to establish some sort of line of communication with VC. They went to watch the Harvard Boston College. I think they said, we're going to root VC on, go to watch him and play BC. They were trying to contact his family on Saturday, and the thing was, VC and his family rejected any meetings with the Preds. That should have been a signal. But the Preds put out the statement on Saturday saying, well, we hope to meet him over the next several days. You already knew he was gone at that point. So what the hell is this stuff about, well, we hope to help to contact him? They knew he was gone at that point. So what all they were doing...
And then I'll let you... Sorry, Mike. And here's another point, and then I'll let you answer. So let's say they did offer him the max contract last year. There's no way they offered him a top 6 role. There's no way in heck, and I can tell you that for sure.
No, that's not true. That's not. I was told.
You're telling me they offered him a top 6 role?
I was told he would be, his NHL debut would have been next to Johansson and James Neal.
Last year.
Well, I was told a couple weeks ago that he was.
No, you're right. For this year, that's true. But last year, I mean,
why wouldn't you want that?
He can't offer a top 6 role to anybody.
Coming off the year he did last year, he needed to hear that last year. When you do it this year...
Wait, you gotta kiss somebody's ass?
You can't.
What do you mean he can't? He was probably the best college player already last year.
Yeah, but that best college player, does that mean you're a top
Jack Eichel was the best player in college.
Okay, that's fine. So maybe he was the second best. But whatever. You're right. Jack Eichel was better. But the point is, he didn't hear what he wanted to hear last year. So he basically said, okay, I'm with you. And even if he said that, he probably looked at his everything this year and said, okay, do I really want to play in Nashville? Am I really going to get a top 6 role? Right. Guaranteed. Because here's the thing.
They need wingers.
Hold on. We all know Peter Laviolette. And if VC goes in there and he doesn't score in 4 or 5 games with the playoffs coming, you know his ice time's getting cut. You know he's not going to be on the second line anymore. Nothing is a guarantee in life. So he wants real opportunity to play. And he probably looked around the league and saw that there were other teams that will give him more minutes.
What NHL team in their right? I mean, like, if he goes and stinks anywhere, his minutes are cut. I mean, you can't guarantee that. I mean, that's completely ridiculous.
But then don't guarantee him a top 6 role because you can't.
Well, you can say he can start. You can say like Dan said this year. They said he was going to start there. That's where he was going to start playing. But if he doesn't perform, of course he's not going to be there.
Well, this sanctimonious response from the Predators regarding he was given bad advice and bad counsel. I'm sorry, when you've gone through 4 years of college in the CBA, you have the right to become a free agent.
And that's fine.
The only thing I find fault with VC and his camp is if they told them before the trade deadline that he was going to sign and they didn't, and Nashville based it. But the thing is, you know what? Poyle's been around for 30 years. You don't wait around and say, oh, I'm going to wait for this guy and twiddle my thumbs and say, okay, here he comes. No,
this guy's dad is a well-respected guy, okay? This guy's dad is a well-respected guy, like Poyle's a well-respected guy. Poyle took his word, and this guy's, and VC's dad, he took his word on that. And that's something that people like Poyle, who've been around forever, will do with each other. Burke will do that. They'll take their word with people that they believe, and then this happens. So the Predators' reaction now, a lot of it is pissed off about that. There's no question about that. They are pissed off, but they have every right to be pissed off. Is what I'm saying.
But I'm not saying that they didn't make a deal at the deadline because they thought he might come.
They were told he would come.
But that's horrible GMing. You're hoping he will come.
No, they were told we are signing. They were told, show up and we will sign the day we're done.
But he can still trip and break an ankle. That's a horrible plan for a GM if you want to win a Stanley Cup. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and as I'm actually writing something right now about this that I'll post it after the show. It was very curious that in the statements that Poyle made that he folded in his Jimmy Vesey Sr.'s involvement in the fact that, yes, he was anxious or was interested in him going to Nashville, and then all of a sudden this change at the 11th hour. That wasn't a mistake. Why? Because Jimmy Vesey Sr. is an employee of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and on August 15th, when the Maple Leafs sign, I'll bet a bottom dollar that there's tampering charges about 5 minutes after the Leafs sign him.
I wouldn't doubt that either, but there's things that tampering charges are so hard to prove. It's so rare.
Yeah, I'm not saying that prove.
But the Predators listen. If VC's father, if they say they might have, I don't know, maybe I was told, maybe an email from them saying that that we are going to sign with you. It's all messed up. This is the guy who works for another team emailing the Predators saying that.
That's not proof of tampering, because if the father is saying he's gonna sign with Nashville, the decision is up to the son.
Not proof of tampering.
It's not up to the father.
Covering your ass is what it is. I mean, to me what this looks like is the fact that VC's father knew at that point he wasn't going to sign with the Predators, and he instead went and went out of his way to make it known that I don't know that, and I'm going to go there because I'm going to tell you he's going to sign with the Predators because I work for the Leafs, and this to me is complete covering up.
I guess my question for Jimmy VC is, why the hell wouldn't you want to play in Nashville? There's a desperate need for a winger. If he produces, he's going to get all the opportunity in the world. It's one of the best markets in the game. His opportunity, the door is wide open. They desperately need a skilled winger. You think Babcock's going to give him a top 6 role? He'll be with the Marlies if he goes to
Here's the difference.
Dream on, Dan. Dream on.
Here's the difference. When it comes, if VC would have signed with Nashville, when it comes time to the bridge deal, he would not have gotten a nice bridge deal. He would have gotten a bare-bones bridge deal. When time comes in Toronto or Boston or one of these other teams, after 2 years, he will get paid a lot more money. That's the big reason.
I think if he produced, I think Roman Yossi makes good money.
I mean, if any team wants
but Mattias Ekholm just signed a very nice bridge deal.
They signed two forwards who've completely disappointed this year.
Those were very team-friendly contracts. Roman Yossi's making a little over $4 million a year, and he's probably at $7 million. What's that?
That's not a lot of money.
He's a $7 million defenseman now. He wasn't 2 years ago.
Why did Ryan?
Yeah, they signed him at the right time. I agree. They signed him at the right time.
Ryan Suter left because everybody wants to go to Minnesota, and they give out bad contracts. Everyone from Minnesota goes to Minnesota, and
that's the point.
They are the land of bad contracts.
But this is the thing. Poyle and Paul Fenton both came out in the last 24 hours and say, the bad advice, bad counsel. We don't understand. It would have been more beneficial for him to sign with Nashville. They would have burned the first year of the entry-level contract. He would have been a free agent after next year. There's something called free will, gentlemen, where you want to go. And if you don't want to go to Nashville, if you play your 4 years in the NCAA, you have the right to say, see you later, team that drafted me.
But don't lie to the team that drafted you.
No one's denying that.
But here's the thing. All right, but then here's the other thing, okay? He never said publicly that he was going there. Nashville didn't have to do this to the kid because it's not nice or classy what they're doing to him in public.
Right.
It's not.
He's as big a villain now as Justin Schultz was a few years ago in Anaheim. They've made him into a villain, and now when he signs someplace else, Nashville is going to say, "Oh my God, he stabbed us in the back because he didn't sign with the great Predators." I mean, it's crap. It's a lot of crap. I really can't stand it.
No, I mean if you were screwed around with like they were, there are. I'm not saying that it's not.
They have a right to be mad. I get that.
Sure.
And he has a right to do this. But the question, he has a right to do this. But he could have been upfront about it. This is a team that don't. Okay, I agree that the Predators are an awesome place to play. I agree that it's a great team. I also agree that he has a possibility of winning a Stanley Cup if he goes there right now. Right, this year he could win a Stanley Cup. That team could do anything. When you have a goalie like that, and you've got defense like that, they can do anything. So, but at the same time, I also know, and David Poyle more than any of us knows, that there is a stigmatism against Nashville with some people and some players and some fans out there who think Nashville is like a Mickey Mouse type franchise, a place where
if they watched the All-Star game, that should have got rid of that stigma.
It should have, but it hasn't.
That's just
I really think it's about salaries and the way they've paid salaries.
Right.
And again,
if that's the case, then I present two players to you, Russ. Two players who just came up on their bridge contracts, okay? And those two players who are underperforming this year for sure, but were given very nice bridge contracts. Two forwards in Craig Smith and Colin Wilson, okay? Craig Smith, $4.25 million. Colin Wilson, 3.97. So basically,
this is big money. That's decent money.
Right.
That's good money for a bridge contract based on what they've done. And you would think the VC would at least perform to the level of Colin Wilson.
But it's
Pekka Rinne, $7 million a year.
Pekka Rinne's paid. We know that. But you know what? Shea Weber only got paid because of the Flyers.
Right.
He would have got money.
He would have been gone.
The only player that they opened up the pocketbooks for is Pekka Rinne. And if you want to pull out Wilson and Smith, I think those are bad contracts because those guys are being paid $3 to $4 million, and I don't think they're $3 to $4 million players.
But the point is the Predators do pay money. I mean, we're sitting there.
I guarantee you, Philip Forsberg gets over $4.5 million at the end of this.
Oh yeah, Philip Forsberg is going to sign a huge contract at the end of this year.
Philip Forsberg is also way better than Craig Smith and.
I know that, but Colin Wilson was coming off a 20-goal season, wasn't he?
Yeah, but Forsberg's already better than that.
I know that.
Right, and he'll sign a big contract.
He came off a twinkle season, and he was compensated for it, and he has not performed since then.
All I'm saying
on the Predators.
Yeah, right. And all I'm saying in this is that when the Predators have had people, they've paid them what they've paid them based on. They haven't underpaid these guys.
They've
Colin
paid
Wilson,
them what they think they're worth.
right? And Forsberg will get that, and VC, if he performed well, would have gotten that too.
But they obviously underquoted Shea Weber, or otherwise he would have signed a bigger deal with them right off the bat.
The Shea Weber situation was a complete. First of all, it was a different ownership for a while. There was a different group there, and but there was a player like Weber. That contract, when you sign a contract like that, it has nothing to do with the GM.
But that stuff gets around, Eck. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, it did. But the fact is that they did sign Shea Weber. They did match the Flyers offer, which the Flyers
at the 11th hour.
But they were going to do it right away. They waited. They knew right away they were matching that offer. It wasn't like.
And think of it this way: if VC had gone out before the last 24 hours, if he had gone out, say, in January or February and said, "I've decided that I'm not going to sign," then the warning lights and the warning bells about tampering would have gone wild.
Absolutely.
The tampering charge is always going to be there because his father's employed by the Maple Leafs. Now, if he doesn't sign with the Maple Leafs, that's a complete different story.
But Dan, what I'm saying is that he stayed consistent, stayed open, at least publicly, about going to Nashville because that was really his only avenue without something nefarious going on behind the scenes. Really, he's locked into it until this very point when his season is over with, and then the decision comes. Honestly, I think he was sticking to what I think he made this decision a long time ago. I don't think it was tampering.
Once again, if he goes to Toronto, he is in a dogfight for minutes. They have.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. Oh, Marner.
No,
Marner won't be there next year.
Yeah, Marner will probably be in London. Jimmy Vesey will be a top sink. He'll be either a top line or second line right winger for the Maple Leafs. No doubt whatsoever.
There's another thing you guys aren't thinking about, and I wish we had Kevin Allen on to talk about this because remember Babcock. Babcock had famous behind the scenes wars about players with Holland in Detroit. There were players that Kenny Holland was convinced that should be playing top 6 minutes and should be playing more and weren't playing that with that.
How long did it take Nyquist to get to the league?
Right. There were plenty of these players, and this completely. This is not a done deal, Mike. Babcock is not going to get top 6 minutes. Is not going to give top 6 minutes to a guy he's told to give top 6 minutes to. It's just not going to fly. This guy's going to have to come in there and have to prove himself. That's just the way he works.
He's going to have to do that
even
anyway.
When Holland wanted at times, they could have had, what was his name? There was another big free agent that turned into a bust. But they could have had him, but Babcock would not promise the minutes to him. I'll think of it before the end of the show.
Mike Riley, is it?
No. But anyway, I'll think of it. But this is not.
Dane Kaiser played.
This is not unprecedented in what I'm saying. The Lou Lamoriello could, and Lou's not going to promise anything either. But these are situations where you're talking about. This is not.
I'm not saying there's going to be
the bottom line is if he knew this all along, Mike, he lied about it, okay? Or somebody in his camp lied about it, and they lied to the Predators about it, and that is why the Predators are pissed off, and they have every right to be pissed off about that.
I'm not saying they don't have a right to be pissed off. They
shouldn't be treated like, oh, you should have known this was coming. No, if we're told by the person. It's like we're told by the person. You can sit there logically and say, oh yeah, normally the guy goes into his last year of college and all that stuff, but when you're told by the person.
Until you have their name on the dotted line, I wouldn't believe a damn thing that they say. Are you kidding me?
Well, no. This is why David Poile is where he is, though. Poile has made a career out of being this kind of a guy. This is what you have to understand. Like, he is a trustworthy character.
Okay.
He's a guy that people trust, and therefore he puts his trust in other people too. And he's a handshake deal type guy. This is the kind of person you're not dealing with. A newer GM here. You're dealing with a GM who deals, still in the way things were dealt in the last century or wherever. Poile trusts. That trust is something that he holds very dear, and people know that about David Poile. His father knows that about David Poile.
Well, one further thing. Poile, and I will grant, Poile was probably very upset yesterday, but in the cavalcade of things that he said we're not going to trade his rights. He's going to go to August 15th. We're going to hold on to him, and then we're going to let him walk. that is again is proof of them getting ready to file tampering charges, because now he may settle down and maybe before the draft,
might trade his rights.
Right, exactly. But the thing is, if you trade his rights, you give up the potential of tampering. If you trade him for a second-round pick to the Maple Leafs, you can't go ahead and say, "Oh,
what do you really get out of? Even if you win a tampering, what are you going to get?
Nothing.
You're going to get a third-round pick.
You're going to get a third-round pick. So
if someone offers a second-round pick for him, he's going to get traded.
Right.
I think he is too. But I think at the same time, Poile is again very much in Poile's character to say we're not just trading him. We are not going to give him that. We're not, and that's very much within the way that he works. And
well, that would be doubly stupid, because then you're losing an asset for
stupid.
nothing.
It's stupid within this realm of things. Okay, it's stupid within this one situation, but you have to realize the entire personality and entire credibility to David Poile is wrapped up in this. It's not just this situation we're talking about. It's not just you can say, oh, Vesey, you're losing a third, or I get him for a third or a second or whatever, but I'm going to be stubborn. I'm going to get a third instead of a second because I could have done that. That doesn't matter to David Poile in this whole scheme of things. It doesn't matter to the Predators, and it shouldn't matter to the Predators, because what happens is some teams just end up running a better organization because they stick by their guns, and over the long haul, it works out.
But
over short term, you can definitely. I mean, we've seen teams screw up this before. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Russ, right?
Yes, and I understand what you're saying. How about this though? Vesey's father played in the NHL. He played like 10 games. He was with 2 different teams. Yeah. Maybe he wasn't treated well. Maybe he once told his kid, "Play where you really want to play, because you never know what's going to happen." Right. And maybe he just doesn't want to play in Nashville.
And that's completely legitimate, and he's allowed not to play in Nashville.
Yeah,
I mean, so if he doesn't want to play there, why should he be vilified? Even if he said, "I'm going to go," have you never accepted a job in your life and then called him up and said, "You know what, I'm taking another job because either they paid more or you liked it better or you had second thoughts"?
Yeah, no, I totally get that, but there have been times in my life when I have been given situations that maybe financially would have made sense for me, but I could have maybe strung someone along about it for a while and seen what happens. But where a moment comes and hits you, it's like, you know what? If I'm going to be honorable, I've got to give these people an upfront decision as to what I'm about. And at some point over the last 4 years, he could have done that. Over the last 3 years, 2 years, he could have done that.
And if you have reservations and you still sign the contract, you're locked into that organization for 7 years, and the only way out of it is to do a Jonathan Drouin, and that wouldn't be acceptable. So I mean, honestly, I think.
Wait, wouldn't he be a UFA after next year?
No. He signs an entry-level deal. It's an RFA.
He'd be an RFA. You're right.
7 years.
I wasn't sure because of his age.
Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. But again, you could plenty of time to tell him you didn't want to come there. That's the point I'm saying. Like, if you don't want to go there, yeah, that's fine. I mean, we can argue that it's a great place for him to play, and it is a great place for him to play, and they have spots for him.
He didn't say to David Poile, "Don't make any trades at the deadline because I might be coming." He didn't tell him to do that.
Yeah, and the responsibility.
He said, "I am coming. Don't make any trades."
It doesn't matter, but he didn't tell him, "Don't make any other trades to try and improve your team to try and win the Stanley Cup because I'm going to do it."
Right, and I understand your point, Ak, about the reputation of Poile and how well respected he is in the league. But in the end, his responsibility is not to his reputation; it's to the Predators and to be a manager of assets.
Yes,
and
but listen, when you've been David Poile is the Predators. He's the only GM this team's ever had, okay? So his reputation is the Predators' reputation. When you're in a market like the Nashville, why that has worked, why it has worked, where it might have fallen apart in other places, is a lot has to do with the fact of how they do things down there. And a lot has to do with the fact that their players want to go and play there. I mean, I've talked to several players who've played for great Canadian franchises who go and say they've never been treated better than they've been treated in Nashville and other places like that. And so his reputation is, so he is doing, by doing what he's doing right now, even though it might not be the absolute perfect situation or the best thing to do for this exact moment, he is doing what's best for the Predators by the way he's handling this. And this is what's best for the Predators. And the fans down there, they know this. They get it, and that's what's different about this organization. They're not looking for David Poile to be fired here. They realize that David Poile has created this team and made us competitive year after year after year. And Barry Trotz, I mean that they basically just ran out of time with Barry Trotz. Like Barry Trotz and the Predators mutually decided that we had done everything we can, and it's not like him not firing Barry Trotz is looking like he was probably smart for not firing Barry Trotz all these years, right? I mean,
and the final thing here, Paul Fenton was interviewed today on Toronto radio, and he said that the Preds are not closing the door on signing Vesey.
Yeah.
Well, of course not, because you have to. Of course not.
Close the door. It's
Yeah.
over.
I know, but
Close
it
the
doesn't mean you
door.
don't. It doesn't mean on August 14th you don't ask him one more time.
Close the door. It's over.
Nope. It's not. I mean, and it shouldn't be because whether or not VC at this point. I mean, this could have been handled so many better ways. Is all I can say. I mean, I'm not sitting there and saying that VC doesn't have the right to do this again. I'm not sitting there saying that.
All right, but here's the thing. I'd like to get off of this, but name me one other kid that's handled it differently. Every time a guy decides not to choose his team, the team goes ballistic. Go back and look at every single one.
No, it's a great point. I mean, it's a great point, Russ. I agree, but. When Eric Lindros never sat there and told he was going to play for the Quebec Nordiques. He never said that. Okay.
That's different though. That's actually different.
How? I mean.
Because he's a guy that doesn't there's no drafting rights. Then he's not even a player in the league. This guy was drafted.
Well, so was Lindros. Lindros was drafted by VC.
No, I know, but he told him ahead of time.
I lose my mind.
Craig Simpson told the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1985 he would not play for them, so they drafted Wendell Clark. Eric Lindros told Quebec he would not play in Quebec. They drafted him, and he didn't play.
Right, and they drafted him with the intention of trading him the whole time. They knew they would get a lot for him. They knew he wasn't going to play there. That's the difference here, okay? If VC had come out to the Predators and said, "I'm not going to play for you," the Predators still may have drafted him. When he's an
18-year-old.
No, he's not going to say that at 18. He's not.
Lindros
let's move on.
It's different. Trust me.
I mean, I know Lindros is different, but I'm just saying that this is not the first time we've seen this.
If VC said, "I'm not playing for you guys," they could have traded him at the deadline.
Yeah, they could have, and they would have.
Well, like I said before, that point of view, that statement from him is. It's proof or it's tantamount evidence that there was tampering involved. Because why would he come to his decision before he even reached the final part of his senior year? That's what I'm saying. He couldn't really say that he wasn't going to sign until after he was done, and then the decision could be made. But up until that point, they would have evidence that he was being tampered with, either from his dad or his brother or whoever. It couldn't have been done any other way.
Well, he's definitely, drawn attention to himself because the guys that used the loophole, how many of them have really gone on to be great successes?
Kevin Hayes.
I wouldn't call him a great success.
He's a success, not a great success.
He's a good
RJ Hamburger.
He's a good hockey. Kevin Hayes is a good hockey player right now with potential to be better. Yeah. But I wouldn't call him a star. Mike
Riley's going to be really good. I can tell you that.
Might be.
I mean, I don't know. I can't say that Justin Schultz has been a success in the NHL, but he's an NHL defenseman. He's not a great one.
Right. People made too much out of Justin Schultz, I think. Anyhow.
I mean, VC could be the best of that group.
He could be.
All right. So what if we talk about Mark Jankowski, who the Calgary Flames are waiting on? Now, they've actually, at least in quotes and in public, seem to have been in at least better touch with their guy and have at least seemed to talk about him every year. Because, if you go back a couple of years, I couldn't find a lot of quotes about Poyle and VC other than saying we're on board with him going back to college.
The Predators had a guy with VC over the last, several months every weekend talking to him.
No, I don't doubt it, but I'm just saying a lot of it wasn't talked about. Yeah. It wasn't made public.
Right.
And so a lot of times these kids want to be gushed over and do want things to be made public. And Calgary's definitely done that. But the other problem is when you're a kid and this is what Kevin Hayes went through, so Jankowski, it would seem like, well, why wouldn't he sign with Calgary? Well, they have Sean Monahan, they have Sam Bennett, he's a natural center.
Right.
If he believes in his mind that he could be a second-line center in the NHL, he may not sign with Calgary because he may not want to be a third-line center or a fourth-line center for the next 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Part of the mix in all these guys is opportunity. It's where do I have the best opportunity? Where do I want to play? So that does come into focus here. I mean, I'm not going to go back to BC, but I think it comes into focus.
It does.
You have an opportunity.
Who says that Jankowski can't outperform Monahan and Bennett in a third-line role? Look at Vincent Trocheck. He's in the third line. He's got 20-something goals this year.
Dan, they're about to pay Monahan $6 million a year, and Bennett was a fourth overall pick who's had a very, very good first year.
But you could still you could still score 50 points in the third line.
You're not going to get as much opportunity. You're not going to ever get an opportunity in Calgary to be a number 2 center or a number 1 center with Monahan and Bennett there.
One of them. You don't know. You can't predict injuries. You cannot predict opportunities. You can't.
But you can. But you can
look at it and say, will have the opportunity? I don't know because they're pretty locked into Sam Bennett and they're pretty locked into Sean Monahan. That's a reality.
Kevin Hayes looks at the Chicago depth chart and sees Jonathan Taves.
Right.
And knows maybe he's was never ever going to be a number one center in the NHL. But you look at Jonathan Taves and say, okay, well, they're spending that kind of money up the middle, and I'm not going to get that many offensive opportunities because Taves is going to get most of them. So I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go someplace where I have a better opportunity to play.
He's not better than the centers in New York.
Right.
Yes, and
he's not better than Broussard or Stepan. His coach hates him.
It doesn't matter, but he wasn't the. It doesn't. That part doesn't matter. A GM doesn't know how a player is going to get along with a player until they actually are together. But the other point is, these guys do. They absolutely look at the opportunity. They absolutely look at how the contracts are handled down the road, and they look at both of those things, and that's what they're weighing out. And they have a right to do it.
Yeah,
honestly, otherwise, if they change it in the CBA, then we won't have an argument anymore. But for some reason, it's been going like this for a long time, and it didn't change in the last one.
Then why do we have a draft at all, Russ? Why do we have a draft at all?
I mean, it's all about
the old days. They didn't have a draft.
I know, and then maybe
got everybody. Is that what you want?
Okay,
no. I mean, constitutionally, has the draft ever gone to the Supreme Court? Because I'd like to know if it's even legal. The whole concept of it seems kind of odd.
Let's go back to
it's all about your opportunity. You can just go out there and play, and if you produce, you're going to be given opportunities. If you're a third-line center, what's that, Russ?
Okay, so let's take Calgary as an example. Sean Monahan gets 75 points a year. Sam Bennett's going to be good for 60 to 80 points a year.
We think. We don't know what he is.
Sean Monahan's already good for 70 points a year.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he is.
And Sam Bennett, let's say he's going to get 45 points this year. I haven't even looked at his points. I don't know what
he probably is going to get 40-something points.
Right. So Jankowski walks in there. If he gets 50 points, is he going to be the second-line center? No. No,
he'll still be given ice time. That's the thing. Look, Cal Clutterbuck's on the fourth line and has 15 goals, plays 18 minutes a night.
I know that, but Cal Clutterbuck is also a veteran who's figured things out. Jankowski is a kid that's used to being on the top line. He's used to being top.
So we should just hand him minutes?
No,
but if he scores those kind of points, he's going to play, even if he's not playing center. He might not be playing center. He might be playing a wing.
He's not going to someplace where he can play top
center. That's the other problem.
Steve Stamkos isn't playing center right now.
I know.
Yes, he is.
Well, now he is. He's back to playing center, but he did play for a short time. It's true.
If you produce, they'll find a play. I guess my point is, if you go and produce, they'll find a role for you.
Yes, they will.
But you as a player may feel like, hey, this is my best
self, man. It's like I can't stand when players bet against themselves, and good agents will not let players do that. Will not let players bet against themselves in situations. This is like you're going in there saying I can't be the top two center over those two guys. There's no way you can't. Good players who really believe in themselves, who are good players,
it's not that they don't believe in themselves. They're controlling their destiny. They're going where they think they're going to have the best place to play.
You think you can do this, Nemo, but you can't.
I think Kevin Hayes controlled his destiny pretty good. Because on the Chicago Blackhawks, he would have been getting scratched a million times. And with the Rangers, he's been playing a lot, and he's been getting really far in the playoffs with the New York Rangers. I think he controlled his destiny.
And he's been a healthy scratch this year, and his coach hates him.
And these Blackhawks, I mean, am I wrong? The Hamps was the center the last time they won the Stanley Cup. I mean, the Blackhawks have no centers past one Jonathan Taves.
They need a center. The Blackhawks desperately.
They're always looking for a center. That's what we talk about.
I'm in favor of going back to the rules before 1963. I want the Leafs to get every player from Ontario. You can take the 29 other teams can take everybody else. We'll take Ontario. Don Cherry said.
Yeah, fine. That would just kill every player from Ontario. But sure, go ahead.
Don't make me take every player from Long Island because we'll be in the lottery.
Here, I'm gonna just, you know what? And Dan will know about this. Let's equate this to the baseball draft. There's a million kids that get signed out of high school by teams, and a lot of times it's like 6th round, 7th round, 8th round, 20th round. The kid thinks about it. He goes back to the team and he goes, I'm going to go play in college. Done. He never can be drafted. He goes back into the draft and he gets redrafted.
3 years later, though.
3 years later, but 99% of the time, it's a different team that takes him. They take him a lot higher up, and that happens more times than the kid that comes out of high school.
Well, I don't know baseball very much, but isn't it totally different? I mean, isn't it?
It's not totally different.
All right.
He got drafted when he's 18. Yep. He's now going to sort of get redrafted, except he's called a free agent. It's the same thing.
Yeah, all right. I don't know baseball enough to make that argument.
But you never hear from that guy again. A lot of times.
I do think the draft is illegal. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I do think it's illegal. I think it's immoral. I mean, if we went to every college in this country and said, give us your best engineers, and then IBM and Apple and Google all had to draft those engineers, and they were forced to go to certain companies, we would say it was illegal.
I draft that guy from MIT. No,
right. We would say it was illegal, and those engineers would be like, no, I'm not going to play for Google.
It's collectively bargained, so it is legal.
Not by the guys who are getting drafted. It's not.
Funny thing.
Those guys, the guys who are getting
Bill
drafted.
Gates would never get hired because he dropped out of school, or what's his name?
Mike pretty much
Right.
jobs. And this is true. What if you went home to your parents out of college and said, Mom, I got a job with IBM, and I'm getting a car, just co-sign the car or whatever, and they would say, Did you fill out paperwork? Did you sign? And you'd be like, no. And then it would be like, no, not until you're actually hired. He wasn't actually hired. He didn't.
Right. I understand that. You're right. It's a good point. That's a good point. But so that takes me back to the draft should not happen at all. Because I mean, and I know it would put you out of a job, Russ. But I really think that that this whole thing.
I'm talking about the NHL. Like, it's okay. I'll be okay.
No, I know. I'm just kidding around when I say that. There will always be prospects. They might not be drafted. It'll actually make your job way better if they're not drafted, because and it'll make my job way better because all these guys are free agents. We'll be able to make billions off this.
Yep.
Let's talk about Darren Dreger for a second before we get into the Flyers' wings. I know we're going to go over it, but why does Darren Dreger hate Nail Yakupov? I just want to throw this out there. This is nothing personal against.
I don't.
You know what I mean, Russ? I mean, it's like this 3 years ago, Yakupov's name was mentioned, and Dreger came on and said no one has any interest in him at all. There's no. Right. Remember this? Nobody wants anything. So yesterday he comes out and says there were rumors that teams are willing to maybe consider a second-round pick for Yakupov at the trade deadline, and that's it, and not much more. Again, there's something, I don't know what Yakupov did to him in a previous life or something like that, but Yakupov I've talked to people. He's got better value than that.
He has value. Yeah. He absolutely has value.
If there was a team, if the Flyers knew that they could have gotten Yakupov for a second-round pick, they would have made that trade.
No, the trade would have been done already.
I know.
Absolutely.
You're missing the point here, Ek. That's what was being offered. The reason he wasn't traded was because Edmonton wasn't willing to take a second-round pick.
I don't think that's true. I think there are teams that would have, later teams like Chicago. You can't tell me Chicago or perhaps LA wouldn't have given a first-round pick for Nail Yakupov. They would have.
I will bet you anything that Peter Chiarelli is a little hesitant to trade a guy like Yakupov to LA or Chicago.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying any of these teams, any of these better teams, Tampa, say Washington. Why? I mean, I'm not saying that he was worth a top 5.
Yeah, Rangers could have easily traded a pick 10 years from now for him.
Yeah, right. I mean, but to sit there and say that there was nothing more than a second round, maybe a second round pick for Yakupov, and before that,
what he's being told.
No one has any interest in him at all. I'm just confused. I mean, I respect Darren Dreger immensely, but I'm confused by this concept of that Nail Yakupov sucks. He doesn't suck.
Well, I don't think he sucks either, but his sources may be people who are anti-Yakupov. So that's I think the simple explanation. I mean, there are not a lot of people right now.
Think about who could be anti-Yakupov. I mean, you're pretty much narrow it down pretty quickly.
There are not a lot of people right now that are pro-Yakupov.
That's not really true. I mean, there are people that are pro-Yakupov. There's a lot of people who are. There's a lot of people in Edmonton that might not be pro-Yakupov sometimes.
Well, maybe that's where his sources are from. I mean,
there's probably 9 other cities that would be like, yeah, we'll take him. Give us a shot at him. I mean, that's not. People realize this guy is still. I mean, people saw what he did with McDavid. No one counts anything that's happened in Edmonton over the last 6 years. I mean, honestly, that's what I've talked to people. They're like, Edmonton is just, who knows what's going on there, and we don't know that Yakupov can't come someplace else and become an immediate top 3 player and do very well. When he showed the only time he's ever had a chance with McDavid to actually do that, he definitely is a player who needs to play with other players. He's not where he might have been overrated is he's not going to be a player that makes players around him better necessarily. That's maybe McDavid, Eichel, these guys make players around them better, right?
His rookie season was pretty good for him.
It wasn't bad, but still he's not able to carry a team, okay? But that doesn't mean he's not a top 3 player still. There aren't many players who can carry
Here's
teams.
the question. Who gets more in a deal and who's more attractive to more teams, Drouin or Yakupov?
Yakupov.
Yeah, I think Yakupov because he's proving it already at the NHL level.
Yeah, I agree.
But here's the thing. Kruger let Yakupov have power play minutes. He let him have a lot of ice time, and he did produce as a rookie. Yeah. And Dallas Eakins came in and took it all away. Decided he didn't work hard enough. Put him on the fourth line.
I understand that. He worked hard. The work ethic isn't the problem.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing, Russ. It reminds me of like a little bit of Simone Gagne in Philadelphia, the fourth line thing. Originally, like Simone Gagne came to Philadelphia, and because of that, Gagne became a player who played for Team Canada as a defensive player, but who could still score. And Yakubov was pushed on the fourth line, and what did he do? He actually did develop a really well-rounded defensive game.
Yes, he's good defensively now.
I don't think anyone would have expected when he was drafted, right? As he was going to be a defensive star.
Oh, I agree.
And the reason I brought that up is because what Steve Yzerman is looking for Drouin is probably a guy who was a first-round pick, probably a high pick, who was a good prospect, and purportedly the Oilers are getting offers of second-round picks. There's a bit of a difference there of what is being offered. I think it's somewhere in the middle where they get for both of them.
Now here's the rumor that I heard this summer. I mean, not this summer, this past, I don't know, a few months ago. It all seems like one long season to me. But I wrote about it. Is the fact that what about a Yakubov for Drouin swap? I mean, here's two players who are in the same boat, who are similar draft picks, high draft picks. One's a little bit more experienced. Both need a new start.
Does Edmonton need another player?
Yeah, Edmonton really needs a defenseman, which is definitely
There you go.
And this is nothing on Drouin. He just falls into too much of what they already have.
But if you were trading one player for the other, would these teams do it, or is there one player that would they say, no, Yakupov's not enough for Drouin, or Drouin's not enough for Yakubov?
No, I think they both would think that. I think that if they both liked the other player, they would do the deal as an even deal. I don't see a problem with that. But again, the problem is that other teams now know that the Edmonton Oilers screwed with Yakupov's head, and even though he's got a great slap shot, even though he is a fast skater, even though he does play great defense, he's now having trouble putting it all together because he's been messed around with. Up and down, fourth line, third line, second line. Let's put you with this guy. Let's not put you on the power play. Let's put you on the power play. All those things for a young player is toxic.
Right.
How would he look in Buffalo next to one of those young centers?
Beautiful. I mean, yeah, and Buffalo's talked to Yakubov in the past. I mean, that's
but again, they're going to want a defenseman. And if you look at Buffalo right now, they have Ristolainen and they have a couple of young guys like Jake McCabe. They don't have a guy who I think would be worthy of an exchange for a Yakupov. They're not going to give up Ristolainen no matter what.
No, of course not.
Well, this is the problem with this, and I talked about this before. Like you do want a defenseman, but the Seth Joneses of the world, they don't exist, right? So I mean, you got the one Seth Jones. They tried to get Seth Jones out of Nashville, they couldn't, right? So they at the same time, there's not really a defenseman that's available that is equal in value for Yakupov.
Zach Bogosian for Yakupov.
Travis Hamonic.
I mean, Hamonic's a good name. Hamonic's probably the best name you could think of for Yakubov. It makes sense. He wants to go there.
That's what Edmonton needs. I don't know. That's what they need. Edmonton needs Travis Hamonic.
And that sounds like something that you told me tomorrow that was a rumor, a legitimate rumor. We've put it together many times, but if it was a legitimate rumor, I would buy it. I would completely buy it because I'm like, okay. And I don't even know that it has to be. And we said maybe you want more than just Yakubov. I don't know. I think that's pretty fair. I think it's pretty fair. I think actually. It is. I think it's pretty.
I mean, obviously, Edmonton will have to throw in something else because they're getting an NHL veteran on a cheap contract. So
it would have to be something else too. Yeah,
Seth Jones for Johansson, okay, versus Yakupov for Hamonic. When you consider those things, okay, they're pretty commiserate. Like I think that's pretty because I would put Johansson maybe a little bit above Yakupov in value, Jones a little bit above Hamonic in value. So to me, I think that's pretty close. I mean, I might be wrong, but
except the cheap contract of Hamonic means that you have to give something back. That's the thing.
And then
the contract is definitely an issue for sure.
And then you have to use the money that Kyle Oposo was making, which was less than $3 million, and go out and get yourself a defenseman.
I would love to see him play.
And I don't want to criticize the Islanders, but I will just say this: at the deadline, why didn't they offer something like Okposo for Drouin and see if
Okposo's not what they need. They have too many 6-foot perimeter players.
You had to trade Okposo for something. You did. Because, and I got the, people were saying, I was at an Islanders party, and their big thing was, well, you can't trade them because they're in a race. But you know what? The Rangers traded Callahan, and they got St. Louis. They managed to stay in the race.
Yes, I would have traded Okposo, too, if the deal was right. I absolutely would have.
I don't even think it didn't even seem like they offered Okposo up.
First, who the hell is inviting you to an Islanders party, Russ? Secondly,
people wanted to learn about Islanders prospects.
No, I don't.
But, look. You saw Garth Snow with character. When character issues have come up on this team, he's dealt with them. You think?
Yeah.
You think he wants Drouin?
Okay, that's fine. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, after the year that Okposo had last year, how do you possibly let him walk into this year with no contract and still be on the team?
Because he wants Bobby Ryan's contract. He wants $42 million.
Somebody's going to give it to him.
I don't think so.
Find that team.
I don't think someone's giving him $6 million a year. I don't.
Find that team. That's what I said.
Right.
Here's the thing. If he wants that contract, he's going to have to go to a bad team.
Sure.
Right. Now, Bill Daly came out real quick and say there is no chance at all, that the Hurricanes will be relocating to Quebec City.
This year.
No.
Just like there was no way Atlanta was
laugh track after Bill Daly quotes. That's ridiculous.
Just like Atlanta was not going to. Just like Atlanta was not going to Winnipeg.
Right. This year.
Yep.
That's why.
The fact that he even said it means it's going to happen.
No.
The problem is, here's the problem with it.
Yeah.
If they roll into this time next year and they still don't have anybody buying the team,
Right.
they're going to make a decision there. They're not going to keep this in limbo forever.
According to the reports,
True.
they've been looking for a minority owner for 3 years and have struck out completely. So if it gets to that point, and they can't find, I mean, if he's not looking to sell out completely, and he's
They've been looking for the right minority owner. Okay, there are minority owners who are willing to get in on this, and they're being a little bit picky. This is what I've been told. Okay, that there are the NHL has a boatload of minority ownership groups that it deals with that are sitting there waiting to get involved with teams. And the NHL, the thing about these teams,
Wait, without mob ties? No, I'm just kidding.
Right, I know.
I don't trust
We like this guy, Paul Silly. He's a nice guy.
I am sorry, but from personal experience, I don't trust anything out of that owner's mouth.
I like this Boots Del Biagio guy. He sounds like a good guy.
Well, I know. I understand if you're just new to the show, Dan is an old Hartford Whalers fan, so yes, of course, this is a problem. But
so he's anti-Howard Baldwin. There you go.
No, it's Peter Carmanos, not
Peter
Baldwin.
Carmano, yes. But here's the thing. So
Although Baldwin did some shady stuff too.
there is no shortage of guys that get together. Some with NHL players, ex-NHL players as part of them, that get together and form ownership groups that want to get involved. And they meet with the NHL all the time. The NHL knows these groups exist. They have a couple of have had options, and Carolina hasn't gone for them. So as much as they need a minority ownership in Carolina, as much as they need that, they haven't needed it so much yet that they've taken one of them.
I mean, they need that. They need a Carolina-based minority owner because I think that would be an entree to that person becoming the majority owner.
That's not hard to find, okay?
Right.
Because in these groups, in these groups, you can find an ex-NHL player. You can find this person who could be a part of that group too. But
Okay, then why would they talk to somebody from the Quebecer group then? Why did Carmanos talk to them?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure Carmanos is checking all of his possibilities. I'm sure he is. Yeah, I'm sure it's his due diligence. But I also do buy that when Bill Daly says this, I do buy that this is the way it's going to be for a while.
And don't think that this is not a consideration because John Shanna from Sportsnet mentioned this last Friday.
Oh yeah.
If Carmanos sold the team and they sold it to Quebec, the price would be the expansion price, which is $500 million. That would be the reason why he would sell to Quebec and not look for the minority, because it would be a financial windfall.
The NHL has to allow that to happen, though. The NHL would have to allow that to happen.
They have to vote on it.
And they might no, but the first thing that has to happen is the NHL itself has to allow it to happen, and I don't think they would. I don't think that.
They let Winnipeg happen.
Yeah, they let Winnipeg happen, but they did
ideal.
not let Phoenix happen. Remember, I mean, there's certain things that do occur here. The NHL, it wasn't just the Board of Governors that was rejecting. We got to get going here, but I want to do the. We got a lot more we can talk about tomorrow, of course, and we will get into it. But I will buy this for a while. This does mean this. I wouldn't say that this doesn't mean that Quebec's not getting a team, however, because the way I look at this, the way it's said, is it maybe there's another team that's moving. He's just simply saying that Carolina's not moving there.
That's fair.
That's always something.
All right, the Panthers to Quebec.
The Quebec Islanders has a nice ring to it.
Oh, stop it!
No, that's not happening. Here we go.
Okay.
Picking winner today is the Calgary Flames.
They'll draft the center, so Janikowski could be a fourth line.
There you go. So now he's definitely not going there.
Yeah, they'll draft the center. Yeah.
Followed by Edmonton and followed by Montreal. You notice that Toronto either gets first or fourth. They very rarely get second or third.
They're destined to go sixth.
They're destined to get Kachuk.
That would be fine with me.
That's not a bad consolation prize.
No, it's fifth. Fifth would be the disaster.
This is a draft that was made for TSN, is all I have to say.
Oh, absolutely.
Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, Toronto.
All right, so let me ask you this question to the panel. If the Canadians get the third pick, was it worth it to sort of let the season slip away? I still say no.
They need talent in their top six.
If they get Line, they're not putting him on the team next year. They're not.
Plus, how much pressure will they be in Quebec to draft Pierre-Luc Dubois?
A lot.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. That if you lost the season because you lost, your goalie Gallagher, Subban for much of it, and you get a top 3 pick, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah, but it's not a guarantee. Like I said, that Line,
or even a top 5 pick, that's still, hey, if you're gonna.
Sure, it's a great pick, but I'm not saying it's a guarantee.
I'm just saying if you lose Price for the year and you pick 14th, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not terrible.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I mean, I think the bigger issue is trying to get players to sign there when Michel Therrien is coach. That's
and do we have an update on Carey Price? Is he still skating?
Yes.
He is, and I talked to a friend up there who says that they do believe he will play by the end of the year.
One game. He's going to play the last game.
Yeah, so he can then say he can play for Team Canada.
That's what he's going to do. He's going to play the last game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. Right. I also talked to people who said he would be playing right now if they were in the playoffs. So it's hard to say what's going on there. All right, guys. Remember, Without the Buzz, it is just hockey. Thanks for the heated discussion. We'll talk to you later.